I have said numerous times that because I was trained by the disciples of Martin Luther King Jr., I was really focused on the uplift of Black people as I entered my adult life. And what was clear to me by the 1970s was that we had our political rights and our civil rights, but we needed to really focus on economic empowerment for Black people. And I must say that although I worked in civil rights and I worked in religious institutions, the fact of the matter is hip hop culture, hip hop entertainment, the hip hop community has done more to impact Black economic life than any of the civil rights or religious organizations since the death of Martin Luther King Jr. And in large measure, there is one person who not only personifies that impact, but who has inspired so many younger people who have come behind him to behave in a way that creates economic self-sufficiency. And he's known as Master P, and I'm honored to have him as my guest today. Master P, welcome to the dfree movement.
How you doing, sir? I'm excited to be here. And I love what you're saying about economic empowerment. I know Martin Luther King, he fought for our rights. And I realized through my journey in life, going to take you on a path where you don't know where you're going to be or what you're going to do. My road started rocking. I grew up in poverty, and all I wanted to do was be successful, make it out the ghetto. But God has took me on a different path. And when you talk about economic empowerment, I took the entrepreneurship route, even in the music industry, because I realized that we have no real plan of action. I grew up on Martin Luther King, and I've always was a dreamer, but I realized one thing: if I'll be successful, what's our plan of action? And I wanted to carry that the same way that you have been doing, and carrying Martin Luther King dream with us growing. The Bible say, pray for wisdom. And it's more than money. A lot of people, they pray for money. And when I figured that out, I knew that I was going to be on the path of economic empowerment, because it's not about me. It's about creating other millionaires around me. And that's the way I kind of look at my success, saying, I've always grew up in a team atmosphere. I grew up playing basketball. So everything that I do is all about the team. It's not just about me. And I realized that we can't take none of this with us, but if I can create more successful people around me, then we all can eat. So when you look at our culture, we done stood in the middle of the streets, we done fought together, white, Blacks, Asian, Latinos. But the one thing that I realized our culture didn't have was a plan of action. And that plan of action is creating economic empowerment, ownership and property in our communities, growing, educating the next generation, and also preserving the elderly in our community. So I've kind of like given my whole life to the youth and the elderly. And even though I come from the streets, I know that God has put me on a path to be an expert at what I do through my failures and my success. So thank you for having me as your guest. And this journey of mine, it's been difficult, but I wouldn't change nothing about it, because I know that God has me here for a bigger plan. So thank you, my brother.
Well, listen, I've said that you, not just you, but your whole network of artists really broke through and changed the culture in America and around the world. But before we get to the economics, I just need one slice of an answer around how did you know that you had the artistry in you? Because that was the catalyst that you used to leverage to build everything else. How did you know? I mean, I grew up listening to Isaac Hayes and Aretha Franklin, and there were no quote unquote rapper role models for you, but you knew you had something inside you. How did you know that?
Well, I think having great grandparents and parents, even though I grew up in poverty, I grew up in the Callio projects, but having that strong foundation around me, my grandmother, Big Mama, my grandfather, Big Daddy, they always took me to church. So even though I had my own decisions as a young kid to do right or wrong, but I think knowing who God is at a young age, and they say when you know better, you do better. I think that built my structure, being able to go to church. And I went to a Catholic school growing up, and I had to come back to the project with my little Catholic boy uniform on, and had to fight because people like, that's just how it was when you grew up in poverty. And I realized that God put me through that, but I knew that they always say He wouldn't put you through nothing that you can't get past, because God don't do nothing negative to you, but He also show you that He'll show you how to get through things, and He'll build your character. I think just having strong grandparents that didn't give up on me, it forced me to be a man of integrity and a man of God. So I think that's what my foundation started at.
Yeah, well, I guess that says a lot about why you're so interested in helping young people and future generations. The thing that fascinated me about you was that, unlike many artists who were just happy to get a record deal and basically make other people rich, you were probably the first. If you weren't the first, you were close to the first to actually cut a deal with your distributor and own your own masters, which really put you in charge of your economic future. What made you? What made you do that? Again, there were no role models. There was no pattern. I mean, you just went for it.
Yeah, Pastor, I'm gonna tell you, I grew up in a project with my grandparents, a 3-bedroom project. And my grandmother had 12 kids. Me and my brother, Kevin, that made 14 with 2 adults. So it was 16 people. Mm-hmm. And being hungry most of your life and not having nothing, I knew that I just couldn't have a regular job. I said, whatever I do, and my grandfather always told me, because he fought in the Vietnam War. That's where the whole No Limit Soldier thing come from, building my brand and my company with the camouflage. My grandfather always told me that if the government was supposed to give him $10,000 to move out the project and get a house, it never happened. So he always told me, say, grandson, start your own business, start your own army, and be independent. And I didn't know what he was saying as a kid. I didn't get it, but as I grew older and when he passed, I realized that I needed to do something to get us out here as a family. It can't just be about me. And being able to read those scriptures from the Bible with my grandmother, I realized that I had to take my talent and do something with it. And those were the type of things that was instilled in me as a young kid. And I don't know, I just thank my grandparents for that. Like, anybody out here watching this, when, you know, a lot of people say they don't have their mom or their father in their life, but whoever you have play that role, whether it's your auntie or your grandmother or somebody, like, you got to be willing to listen and know that people are praying for you. People want better for you. And that, I just kept thinking about that as a kid. And when I got an opportunity to do a record deal, I looked at the Michael Jordan deal. He sold his name and his brand for $1 million back in the 90s. And I realized that that was the worst deal that I knew of, that always made me think, I can't sell my name, my likeness. And the first record deal that I got, it said that for 7 years, I couldn't do nothing with my name. And I kept going back to that Michael Jordan deal. And I look at it now, which Nike, you know, further down his career, ended up making it right with Michael Jordan. And now he's a billionaire, but they had made so much money off of him, off his name, his brand. He had to change his own name to come up with Jumpman, which that brand didn't do as well as the Jordan brand. The Jordan brand is humongous still today. And I reflected on that. I even, in the 90s, I went to Michael Jackson attorney and I gave him $25,000. He said, if I gave him $25,000, I could sit down with him and he'll tell me the deal that Michael Jackson had, and that he'll show me a deal that I could get that'll change my life. And I'm like, man, I live in the ghetto, $25,000. So I started selling my CDs at the trunk of my car and cassettes. And when I built the money up, I went to see this guy and he told me, said, the next deal that you would get that's bigger than Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson has a 22% deal. And I'm like, man, this guy brought Neverland Ranch and all this stuff up at 22%.
Mhm.
The guy told me I could get an 85% deal, but then I need $200,000 of marketing and promotion money. And so you got to think that I was still in the ghetto at the time. I left out there kind of upset, but it was the best $25,000 I spent. I invested in myself, and I just kept praying to God, man, like, man, I got to get out of here. I got to do something. And something just came to me, like, you got to keep investing in yourself. You are your best investment. And I just started selling my CDs and cassettes out the trunk of my car even more. And then I raised the money. And then I got a company to offer me that distribution deal. And they said, if you have $200,000, we'll give you a distribution deal. And that's just how God worked. My journey started. The rest was history. I ended up putting out my music, and I went from selling no records to today selling over 100 million records. And in the 90s, 98, I made Forbes top under 40 on the Fortune 40 list. So
yeah, I saw that. I saw that. I've been watching you ever since.
yes, thank you. Now it was a blessing, man, because I had so many people to take care of. People don't realize, you know, my whole goal was, and the way God worked, I've always tied 10%. And at first I didn't understand that, Pastor. Like, you know, my girl was saying, like, you need to, she was into the church hard. She was like, you need to tie 10% of your money. And I didn't want to do it at first. And then when I started doing it, my money started building back up, and it just started coming in. I was able to help so many families, not just my own family. I was able to buy my grandmother. She went from living in a project to I brought her 2 houses, and brought my mom a house, my dad a house, family members, friends, people that I put on the label. I was able to create more millionaires. Mia X, Mystical, Silk C. I was able to sign Snoop Dogg and recreate his career. So, man, it was incredible journey. We're still on this journey right now. And my motto is, the more I make, the more I give. I'm able to help so many other families. In the next generation, I created a foundation called Team Hope, to where I focus on the youth and the elderly. And it's just been a blessing. And I think anybody that's watching this, tithing is the most important thing that you can do once you're successful. So I tithe 10%, and I also take 10% and I reinvest into other business to diversify my portfolio. When I was coming up, Pastor, they told me, you only need to be good at one thing. That's the way you're gonna be successful. By me being from New Orleans, I realized that that wasn't true. And even though the failures and everything I've been through, I realized that if I only have one thing, when a hurricane come and wash it away, then I'm done. But when I diversify my portfolio and I start thinking of real estate, product outweighs talent, I start realizing that now I can be successful for a long time. And I've been successful for over 25 years now. And it's just a blessing.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. I mean, you said that you invested in yourself, and that's well established, 100 million units sold. You know, your music is prolific. You created other artists. And of course, you've invested in your family. But I was talking to Chuck. I was talking to Chuck from allhiphop.com.
Yeah, yes.
And Chuck told me a long list of things that you invested in. In fact, I don't know if he was telling the truth or not. Chuck told me you invested in potato chips.
Yeah.
And so my question is, how do you decide? Because, you know, our movement is aimed at motivating people to be like you and to invest. But how do you decide what to invest in? Because you've invested in much more than music. Your investments are very, they're diversified and they're very unique. So just say a word about how you make your investment decisions.
Well, my thing is, I think most people, they get into stuff because of money. And mine is built on passion and love and coming up with ideas. So I tell people there's 3 types of peoples in the world. It's poor people, it's rich people, and it's wealthy people. The poor people, all they talk about is money, money, money. Where my money at, I need money, how I'm gonna get the money, who have any money, who could learn me some money, I need to borrow some money. That's the only thing poor people talk about. Yeah. Rich people, all they talk about is their things. My car, my house, they want to show you whatever they have, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine. and they get caught up into the material side of life. But rich people is the ones that think that they wealthy, but they not. Wealthy people, they talk about what they love and they talk about